In December of 1978, Muhammad Ali found himself seated inside the resplendent palace of King Khalid in Riyadh. Crystal chandeliers shimmered overhead. Gold leaf glowed against marble walls. It was meant to be a ceremonial visit, diplomatic and cordial, nothing more. It became something else entirely. Ali was 36. The miles of a punishing career were beginning to show, though his legend had only grown. He had recently reclaimed the heavyweight crown by defeating Leon Spinks, becoming a 3-time champion and solidifying his mythos. The world called him the greatest. His bank account, however, told a more complicated story. Boxing purses in the 1970s were impressive, yes, but nowhere near the stratospheric contracts modern fighters command. King Khalid had not invited him merely as an athlete. He wanted the man, the believer, the most visible Muslim sports figure on earth. The king admired Ali's refusal to fight in Vietnam, his public embrace of Islam, his willingness to sacrifice prime earning years for conscience. Through a translator, seated amid advisors and attendants, the monarch spoke with solemn admiration. "You have honored Islam with your courage." Ali inclined his head respectfully. He had felt that global resonance before, but he was not prepared for what followed. A lacquered briefcase was brought forward. Inside lay documents. Transformational documents. The offer was staggering, $100 million up front, an almost incomprehensible sum in 1978, plus a palace in Riyadh, a private jet, and an annual $10 million stipend for life. In return, Ali would serve as Saudi Arabia's global ambassador, traveling the world to present what the king described as the true face of Islam. Then came the stipulation. He would need to renounce his American citizenship, permanently relocate, fully assimilate into Saudi life. The air thickened. This was not simply wealth, it was dynastic security, fortune on a mythic scale, generational insulation from want.
A gift for the champion.
Ali requested time.
Thank you.
That evening, in lavish guest quarters overlooking the desert, he wrestled with the gravity of the proposal. His financial advisor laid it out bluntly. This was more money than 100 lifetimes in the ring could generate. Ali's generosity, borderline prodigal, was well known. He gave freely, supported family, friends, causes. Investments sometimes flourished, sometimes faltered. His wife, Veronica, spoke softly. "What does your heart say?" He stared into the vast Arabian night before answering. "Some things," he said slowly, "are worth more than money." America, flawed and fractious, was still home. Islam, he believed, could not be authentically represented if commodified. Faith purchased loses its gravity. The following morning, beneath stained glass and sunlit gold, Ali returned to the palace. Overnight, the king had sweetened the offer, another $20 million, even the construction of a mosque anywhere in the world bearing Ali's name. "Have you decided?" the king asked warmly. Ali stood. "Your Majesty," he began, "I am deeply honored." He paused, steady and unflinching. "But I must decline." Shock rippled through the chamber. Advisors exchanged incredulous looks. The translator requested repetition. Ali continued, "I embraced Islam because it was true for me. If I accept this money and your citizenship, people will question whether my faith was spiritual or transactional." He met the king's eyes. "I want to represent Islam, but as Muhammad Ali from Louisville, Kentucky. I want the world to see that you can be both a proud American and a devout Muslim." In a realm where wealth resolved nearly every impasse, this refusal was almost incomprehensible. "If I take your money, I become your employee. If I speak from my heart, my words carry truth." Then came the line that lingered long after. "You don't need to pay me to represent Islam. Islam has already given me peace, strength, and purpose." The palace was silent. He spoke of bridges, how they must remain anchored to both sides. Relocate entirely, and the bridge collapses. Minutes passed. Finally, King Khalid rose. His voice, when it came, was no longer persuasive, but reverent. "In my life," he said slowly, "I have never seen a man refuse such wealth for such reasons." He withdrew the offer of money and citizenship. In its place, he offered friendship, respect, brotherhood. Word of the refusal circulated quietly through diplomatic channels. It would take years to become widely known. Yet the impact was seismic. Ali's credibility as a Muslim spokesman began to become assailable. No one could accuse him of monetizing belief. His earlier sacrifice during the Vietnam era had already cost him millions. This decision fortified that narrative. Politically, the choice reverberated. During a tense Cold War climate, Ali embodied a counter-narrative. Muslim and American were not contradictions. They coexisted. Privately, the cost was real. Financial pressures persisted. Medical bills mounted as early symptoms of Parkinson's disease began to appear in the early 1980s. The Saudi fortune would have dissolved those burdens instantly. He never reconsidered. When asked years later, he would smile and say, "Allah provides." The relationship with the Saudi royal family endured. Mutual respect remained intact. When Ali lit the Olympic torch at the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta, hands trembling but spirit unbroken, Saudi representatives were among those who celebrated him. They saw confirmation of what they had witnessed in Riyadh. Integrity beyond valuation. The episode became a case study, in business schools, in religious circles, in leadership seminars. Scholars cited it as an exemplar of authentic conviction over opportunism. Athletes invoked it when confronting lucrative but compromising endorsements. Public figures referenced the Ali standard when weighing principle against profit. His refusal did something paradoxical. It increased his worth. Not financially, existentially. Because when Ali spoke about faith, racial justice, or dignity, audiences knew he could not be bought. The authenticity he safeguarded that day in Riyadh became his most enduring currency. He proved that greatness is not only measured by titles reclaimed or opponents defeated. Sometimes it is measured by the fortune left untouched on the table. On that December morning in 1978, Muhammad Ali demonstrated that the most powerful victory is occasionally the one achieved by walking away.
As Ali's boxing career tapered off, the financial implications of that choice became increasingly tangible. Fight purses diminished. Exhibition matches and public appearances filled gaps, but they were not the same. Meanwhile, expenses persisted. His generosity did not abate. If anything, it intensified. He supported extended family members, longtime friends, struggling acquaintances, charitable initiatives, often without scrutiny. Money flowed through him like water through open hands. The Saudi offer would have dammed that river permanently. Instead, Ali accepted the unpredictability of self-determined freedom. There were seasons of strain. Investments faltered. Medical consultations multiplied as tremors, small at first, became more pronounced. The diagnosis that would later define his final decades began casting its long shadow. Yet there was no bitterness. Those close to him noticed something curious. Whenever the Riyadh offer resurfaced in conversation, Ali did not dwell on what he had forfeited. He spoke instead about what he had preserved: identity, voice, moral independence. That preservation mattered. When he addressed university audiences about faith, young Muslims listened because he had paid for his beliefs with sacrifice. When he spoke to skeptical Americans about Islam's place within the national tapestry, his message carried credibility precisely because he had declined to abandon that tapestry for wealth. Had he accepted the Saudi citizenship, critics would have found easy ammunition. They would have framed his advocacy as contractual, sponsored spirituality, purchased devotion. But because he refused, his words resonated as voluntary testimony. There is a difference between advocacy and authenticity. Ali understood it instinctively. The decision also fortified his standing within America itself. His earlier resistance to the Vietnam War had branded him controversial, even polarizing. Yet by choosing to remain American, despite a king's invitation to depart in luxury, he signaled that critique does not equal disloyalty. It can arise from commitment, from hope. He chose reform over retreat. Religious leaders from multiple traditions began referencing his example. They saw in it a rare fusion of conviction and restraint. Business ethicists analyzed the episode as a lesson in long-term reputational capital versus short-term liquidity. Public intellectuals cited it when debating whether influence should ever be leased. The narrative gained traction particularly among other Muslim athletes and celebrities navigating geopolitical pressures. Ali had illustrated that pride in one's faith need not require surrendering civic identity. One could inhabit both spheres without dilution. The bridge metaphor he used in Riyadh proved prescient.
Bridges must remain anchored on both banks. Sever one side, and the structure loses function. As decades unfolded, his credibility remained intact. No scandal of compromised principle stained it, no revelation of transactional faith emerged. When he advocated for religious tolerance or racial equity, the public memory of that refusal lingered, even among those who did not know the details. They sensed it. He was not for sale. Authenticity became his most formidable asset, far more valuable than $100 million. The Saudi royal family, for their part, maintained respect. Invitations continued. Affection endured. What began as a financial proposal matured into a genuine relationship rooted in admiration rather than obligation. There is something almost paradoxical in how the story concludes. By declining the money, Ali amplified his moral authority. By refusing employment, he preserved influence. By rejecting security, he strengthened legacy. Years later, observers would describe that meeting in Riyadh not as a lost fortune, but as a defining affirmation. In a gilded palace heavy with opulence, a man chose something weightless yet priceless: integrity. And that choice, made in measured tones beneath stained glass and gold, reinforced a truth Ali has long embodied inside the ring. Real power does not always announce itself with noise. Sometimes it simply says no. That December decision did not add another championship belt to his collection. It added something less visible but more enduring. Proof that greatness is not merely the ability to conquer opponents, but the discipline to resist temptation. Muhammad Ali left Saudi Arabia without a contract. He returned home with something far rarer: his principles intact.